So I had a couple conversations over actually a lot of conversations over a lot of months, but more recently too, and how I reflect on kind of or think about my next move as far as literal move. Like, do I stay in LA? Um, do I move to a place where I can make a living off dance? In LA, it's pretty difficult. Some people message me about private lessons and things like that over the internet, and I send my prices, and it's not cheap. Um, Partly because you know I feel like I can charge that, and the reason I charge. I feel stupid for explaining why I'm charging what I'm charging, as far as like, because it's strange to myself, like what it is um, that creates value and why I should charge what I charge. And a lot of it is not even, if it was up to me, because I learned all this stuff for free for the most part. It was given to me freely, so it's always a strange thing to charge. Um, but there's all these different ways to look at like how to charge, what to charge, and um, for me it was like, okay, this is given to me freely, but yet I'm turning around and charging for it. It's like, first off, it's not even my techniques. It's not even I didn't create this stuff. I'm like profiting off somebody else's um, goodwill or someone else's hard work, and that's a little strange to me. At the end of the day, it's not like, but then I justify it with like, it's not that much money. It's not like I can fully live off of this. But it's hard because the economy of dance is strange. You have you have people that are giving information for free, then you have people that are charging a ton of money um, for maybe less information or not as good of coaching or things like that. It's just like the price doesn't necessarily correlate to the service or value that you're getting from the people. Because I know there's beginners that can teach really well too. Um, and honestly, I don't know. I have these theories about like, okay, I don't think it takes a master to teach. I think there should be teachers of all skill levels. Um, but I think a huge important aspect of who should be able to teach um, and like charge for it or whatever is just be able to point people in a direction of growth. So if some student comes to your class and they're curious about a certain style or a certain history or something like that you have at least enough knowledge to point them in the right direction, or another cookie crumb along the trail, like where can they go to seek out more information. And I think that's important, kind of knowing where your skill level is at and where their skill level's at, and just kind of in relation to all that. Just all we're trying to do in this game is kind of like help each other out. I don't claim to like teach some sort of ultimate truth, like life is so vast. It's so vast. It's the experience of the same physical stimulus. The same thing happens to somebody. The interpretation can be completely different. Like the the experiences we have, the way we're brought up, what we're gonna go through in our midlife or our elderly life. It's so yeah, maybe there's similarities on the things that happen during those times, like people pass away and, you know, uh, collecting Social Security, or, getting married and having kids or not, or, career opportunities. These are all similarities, but the experience of them are so different. And that's what makes us all uniquely who we are. But now, where are we trying to get in this dance? It's like, I used to get upset when I'd see somebody, like, I don't know, use a concept, or use a move, and I'm like, but wait, hold up, weren't you just teaching that? Aren't they a good student? And then at the same time, like, I did the same exact thing. It's interesting, for me, like, now I kind of look at it. I'm giving what was given to me, and I'm passing down these tools to express something within themselves. And that's so, you can't put a value on that, you know, getting, allowing in a space, or giving someone the tools to access themselves in a deeper way. Um, like, you don't need me to do that. And the thing is that I might not be that person that unlocks that for you. It might be somebody else. Everybody has their people that are gonna unlock that for them. Different times in their life with different people. That's when it comes down to relationships. It's the same thing. It's not about, like, who you meet necessarily. It is about that, but it's also about how you meet them, the timing, the frame that holds their picture on the wall, you know. Um, when you cross paths with that person, I've met tons of good people, but it was, maybe not the time, or, there's millions, billions of good people in this world, but where you come across in your life path is kind of what makes the magic happen, not just in relationships, friendships. It's also with learning. Because I've seen also where you have, like, really famous people that maybe say something very vague, and, kind of like this cult leader type stuff, but you say something really vague, and it sounds like super profound to somebody, because you're their idol. You're their, they really look up to you. So, there's, like, this kind of halo effect that happens when someone's famous. And so you have this fame that gives them this kind of, their word, this weight, has a weight to it. So I see, somebody that has been told this many times, but it comes from a certain person at a certain time, and they're like, the light bulb goes off, and that's beautiful. There's nothing knocking that. And for me, that's what I think is, when it comes to teaching, and the economy of it, it's hard to tell, because back to what I originally wanted to talk about, is, like, in LA, it's hard to live because it's really expensive. As a dancer, it's tough. As an artist, it's tough. You don't know when you're gonna get paid. The payment is sporadic. In LA, we all have to work, like, separate jobs, just to keep afloat, and then we can get a dance job that pays a lot for 15 seconds of nothing, so it's crazy. It's a crazy life. But and people always think, like, oh, this is, it's about the money and that sort of stuff. I'm like, if it was about the money, if it was about the money, yo, street dance is probably the worst turnaround investment I've ever seen. I practice for so many hours a day, in where is the payment, like, monetarily? And for me, the payment is all internal, you know? It's like so rewarding. It's so rewarding to me. Um, Physically for myself, um, but also like the ability to help other people feel what I felt, feel feel the freedom, feel the connection with other people, to have moments of public vulnerability that are validated, like your experience is validated. It opens up conversation. So for me, that's life, you know. That's It doesn't get much realer than that. And if I can, I wish I could teach across the world, you know, and still have a home in LA. At the same time, you know, you go to India or you go to China. Well, not China, but like China, they pay enough there. But I'm talking about like other countries where their currency is so devalued that it's so impossible for them to really afford what you need to live in LA. It's the reality of things, you know. So if I'm gonna go teach in these other countries, I have to be able to, um, yeah, to survive in LA. So you know, like bare minimums. People think it's crazy, but you know, you can get by. I mean, I've gotten by in LA for really cheap, but it's not. It's tough. It's tough, you know. I mean, to find rent that's under $700, like you for a room in a house, just a room in a house. But then you're talking about like a bedroom, like a one bedroom apartment, like to find anything under $1,000 is crazy. You know, you're talking like cheap, like in an unsafe area is like 1,000 maybe. Um, and then more likely it's around 1,300 or something for a cheap one. um, yeah, it's crazy. When you could get when I was living in Vietnam, I was living off $200 a month. That's crazy. Like, so I was spending $500 a month for a 4-story house in near the downtown of Hanoi, and it was $500. Then I had a motorbike, and you're eating at restaurants, and every plate's like $1.50. It's amazing, you know. It's like for us, it's like I could retire right now, and but at the same time, you know, there's nothing like home in LA either. So it's hard. So you think how cheap it is for us there? Imagine how expensive it is for them here. So when people hit me up from these other countries, and you know, there's no way they can afford a private lesson or a workshop at an LA rate. It's just the reality of things, you know. So I either have a choice, you know. I only go to a place where I can get enough money to continue my life in LA, so that limits me to certain places that pay enough, or I minimalize my life in LA so I can afford to go teach at these places all across the world, which to me is kind of like the dream, you know. um, I love to study culture. I love to connect with people. I love to see the differences and the similarities, and the food, and you know, the camaraderie, the feeling of new beginnings, the feeling of, you know, connection despite language barriers, cultural values, religious ideas. You know, I'm just, I guess I'm like, I don't know, I'm completely fascinated by the mind and and how culture and society affects how we think. So for me, travel is just magnifying. I see the contrast, I see the similarities, and it's always that shock. Like the more you travel, the more you go to these other places, the more you realize who you are. Like I didn't know what it was like to be an American, American, I mean U.S. citizen, um, till I left, till I understood what another place was, um, where I felt like, oh wait, you guys don't wear helmets when you ride motorcycles. I mean that's just a random one, but how y'all cook, how y'all speak, um, what's accepted here and what's not, you know, just like whether it's laws, policy, things that are expected of a daily life, how you walk into a place. Do you have to take off your hat? Do you have to keep a hat on? Do you have to have your legs covered? All these sorts of things. Like, why is it not like that in my country? Why am I so ignorant to this? And then slowly you start to understand that, like, what it is to be an American or from the US. And so for me, it's not only finding out about other people, it's also unlocking who I am as a person when I experience these different cultures, different people, different experiences. Yeah. It's like you have like this wall, or there's like a keyhole, and you keep trying to fit the keyhole in, the key in the keyhole, and you don't know how, like, it's not fitting. And that key, every time you're trying to enter it in, you can feel a little notch where it's making some sort of friction. It's not getting the lock to turn. So every time, like for me, it's like when I travel and experience something new, it's like I'm trying to fit the key into the lock. And when it doesn't quite turn, I can feel, oh, it's a little closer. Every culture for me is like, it's like an attempt to put that key in the keyhole and making another little notch to get it that one step closer to unlock that door. And yeah, it's kind of how it feels. So the question is, well, there's a few options. Sometimes you only see out within your box. There's endless options all over the place. But one is like, oh, you could just become filthy rich and make a ton of money, and then do whatever you want. You can survive wherever you want, or you can make it just enough to survive for a little bit, or you can do this and that. You could just start a nonprofit, or you could, these are all options, and they're such privileged options coming from the U.S. Like, I know other countries have different access to grants and things like that. In the U.S., it's kind of hard to come by artist grants, I think. But who knows? I haven't been tried. That's the reality, is we kind of shoot down ideas, but we haven't really tried. Or I could do what I've done before, which is completely minimalize my life to live out of a backpack, to travel the world and afford to teach these places where the money can't allow you to continue your life in LA. So, just some thoughts. Dang, that was 20 minutes. Where am I gonna put this video? Instagram TV is only 10 minutes. I'm gonna have to put it on YouTube or something. But anyways, I gotta figure out a platform for this. Just some thoughts, y'all. Peace.